Welcome out to another episode of It's All Been Trucked Before. This time, the counterclock incident. Yeah, controversial. Controversial to me. You'll find out why. I bet you think it's controversial too. You know, it's not controversial. This weekend, this Saturday, the mothership, It's All Been Done Radio Hour, 4th. Where does the time go? 4th anniversary show at Mad Lab Theater. The traditional 4th anniversary present is zombies, right? Well, it has to be now because there's lots of zombies. They've got their first 80-minute story with the whole show being Packer and Ratcliffe, the pursuit of Packer. Ratcliffe, Larry, and Tim zero in on their hunt for Ratcliffe's missing beloved. They'll encounter a few familiar faces along the way. Tickets still available? Maybe? Possibly. I don't know. They might be out. I hope I'm not speaking about something that you can't do. But madlab.net/tickets. Their anniversary show is usually a big one. It is a big one for their award-winning show, so get yours. Get it now. Details can be found at itsallbeendoneradiohour.com. And the whole entertainment network is based on IABDpresents.com. And while you're there, you know I'm going to mention it, patreon.com/IABD. Another great way to support us. One benefit is, like, let's say, maybe you're on vacation July 13th. You're going to miss our anniversary show. We're sad. But you know what? You donate enough to patreon.com, you get access to some raw footage. Yeah, you'll get to hear it. And those tears will go away. You won't have to wait like some of these other suckers who aren't giving money. That is patreon.com/IABD. Something else going on, the Quarterly Book Club. It's still rolling. Why quarterly? Because you're busy and books are long. In its third year, they're reading young adult novels for 2019. And I think they're wrapping they just finished Point Claw by Amber J. Kaiser. But their second quarter, Looking for Alaska by John Green, author of The Fault in Our Stars and Turtles All the Way Down. Wow. I like the titles. Check them out. Quarterly Book Club and the rest of our programming, IABDpresents.com. And this is it. The finale. This is how the world ends. Not with a bang, but with a whimper. The counterclock incident on It's All Been Trucked Before.
Welcome out to another episode of It's All Been Trucked Before. Your core crew are here.
This is Steven.
And Keith.
Jimmy-Jerome. The counterclock incident. First impressions of the final episode of the animated series.
That was the last episode?
Yeah.
We're done.
This was the finale. That's why
I thought it was going to be 2 episodes.
That was why it was so dramatic.
It was interesting what they were trying to do at first. And then it started getting frustrating.
Mm-hmm.
There was no logical consistency to the way. Well, let's start by describing what was going on. So they passed through this wormhole of sorts.
A star going nova.
Yeah. And everything's, you have a negative space. The space is white. The stars are black.
Well, it was a nova in both universes.
Right.
Yeah.
So they discover that time is flowing in reverse, somehow accelerated, and also somehow affecting all of the living things on the ship, de-aging them to the point where they are supposed to be losing skills,
including their uniforms. The algae even got smaller.
Yes, the uniforms form-fitted to become children's uniforms eventually, but they're also losing their knowledge of how to run the starship, but then also.
But not their knowledge of each other.
Yes, exactly.
Right.
I wrote that down. It's like, these things shouldn't. Yeah.
I thought, if for whatever reason, I don't know why, I thought the Lorelei signal and I thought the Sheridan incident were going to be this episode for whatever reason. Mm-hmm. I thought the Lorelei signal was the one that did this to him. And the Sheridan incident just made him smaller and in size. And then this was the one I was really dreading. So I remember not liking this one at all. Even the novelization of this, I did not like at all. And then we'll get to my least favorite part of the episode, which is part of the reason I think a lot of this stuff isn't canon. But anyway, or it actually is canon, but I refuse to acknowledge it as canon.
I think we can acknowledge the story is canon, but maybe not all the details.
Yes.
I agree with Keith. There were some interesting concepts.
Yeah.
And some poor execution.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, let's talk about why the aging thing didn't make sense. First of all, time was flowing normal speed, just backwards when they entered. I mean, the flower just reverted to earlier that day.
Right.
And then as they were heading back, all of a sudden, we're going like years and minutes. That did not make sense. In 18 minutes, like they went to childhood.
Yeah.
That did not match with everything else we saw. They all were like the same age, and then very suddenly they all looked younger. Mm-hmm. With only Shatner changing his voice, and it just got higher. I'm gonna talk higher now.
Sulu as well, and then. But the ambassador or whoever the two people,
Commodore Robert April.
yeah, didn't change their voices at all. even though
Right, which that didn't make any sense.
Dr. Sarah April was Nichelle Nichols.
Nichelle Nichols, yeah.
Yeah, Robert April was Jimmy Doohan, who also voiced Carl 4, which I guess was the son. And Nichelle Nichols also voiced Carla 5, who was the daughter. Majel was credit only in this episode.
Yes.
Yeah, the reverse aging, so their knowledge was going away, but not their memories of each other, because Kirk
Right.
still knew what Spock was.
Right.
Which doesn't make sense.
No.
And then, like you mentioned, the algae should revert to the form it was before.
Right.
The ship might have been reverting, because we know the ship's over 20 years old.
Oh,
So, because Robert April had not been the captain of the Enterprise in 20 years.
Right.
And he was the captain of the Enterprise at least for the first 5-year mission. So the Enterprise is at least 25 years old as this episode starts. Pike did 3 5-year missions after April before Kirk took it over, according to the canon story. Okay. So the Cage, Pike's only been in command a couple of years. April had given it over to him. And now this is still Kirk's first 5-year mission.
well, and she says she was on the first warp drive starship, right? Didn't she say that?
I don't think so. Because the first warp drive starship was the Phoenix, Ephraim Cochrane, like 200 years before this.
See, I think she did say that.
Did she say that?
Yeah, which is a problem.
I missed that.
I bumped on that. Like, nope, I don't think it has to be more than 50 years.
Yeah, I mean, maybe the first Constitution class starship?
Maybe. But she said the first ship with warp drive capability.
Yeah, that's not true.
No, it can't be.
Yeah, the memory thing doesn't make sense to me either, because then everybody in this universe would know what's going to happen before it happens, right? Because they already have memories of it, the way they're showing to be reverse aging. If their memories are forgetting...
Right, if time is going backwards, nothing new could happen, right?
Right, they're just forgetting things as time goes backwards. They'd have no concept of the time that's already passed.
Yeah,
because they would have forgotten it, which makes no sense.
If time's actually going backwards, then it's really just... Yeah, nothing new should happen. They should just go back to where they were, shouldn't they?
They shouldn't have any
and then it should be
concept,
taken care of.
Yeah, they shouldn't have any concept of it. They should,
Right.
Yeah.
They would just go back to before they went in there,
I don't know.
right?
So, sort
No.
of. So the blonde woman in the ship who was talking backwards before.
Carla 5.
Carla 5.
So was that who they were towing? Or,
Yeah. Yes.
So she got through before them,
Yes.
and she said that the baby was her father. Was her father
Yes.
also on board with her when she went through,
No.
or he was on Eret?
Yeah.
Because it's...
Which is Terra backwards,
Yeah.
so probably Earth.
Right. But was she going there after him on purpose? Is that what the...
No, she was just going home.
Their universe is...
She got stuck in our universe and she was returning home.
Their
Oh,
universe
I thought you were saying that hers was ours too.
No.
Okay.
Their universe is the Benjamin Button universe.
Just like I really liked the talking backwards because it was very Twin Peaks. The way they talked backwards, it felt the same way.
I thought she was saying Paul is dead, or was trying to return Mr. Mixoplex to his own dimension.
Little Rick and Morty.
But
I apologize very much to our listeners for the extra noise in this episode. Zoe has strong opinions, apparently. And then the capper on that, they said, first of all, okay, this was the part that made Steven mad. They said, okay, this transporter can just fix them.
Yeah.
Which, I guess, like, every time somebody dies, you just run them through the transporter.
Yeah. Anytime someone, like, breaks an arm, like, just put them in the transporter.
so I guess the
I
idea,
reject that.
so I guess the idea is they were about to go back through to our universe or theirs or whatever, but that wasn't going. The time wasn't going to move forward fast enough to reverse
Right.
it, so they would have to.
Which, again, it shouldn't have been moving backwards fast either, because it wasn't
Right.
when they first came through.
Right.
It made no sense. And then Captain Robert April and his wife were like, Robert April's like, oh, I don't want to live our life over again. You're not going to live your life over again.
Yeah.
You're going to just continue from where you are.
Right.
But
Well,
why were?
I guess he didn't want to lose
Here's
the
my-
memories, but they weren't losing all their memories.
Right. Well, and I didn't understand. He was like, I got the sentiment, like, oh, our life was so great. I wouldn't want to, It's like, no, if your life was that great, you would want to relive it.
Yeah.
What you don't want to relive is junior high. But all the good stuff you want to relive.
I mean, you get extra years with the woman you love.
Right.
Doing the job you
Right.
love.
And they could have stayed young too, actually,
That's
which was
what we're saying,
also very
right.
strange. So did they go back in the transporter to make
Yes.
themselves old again? Then?
Yes.
Okay.
Now, the concept...
He was clearly unfit for command. Starfleet should not have reversed it.
Right. I mean, I think they could have done something with the aging backwards that made more sense. But just going to reverse galaxy was not going to do it. They needed something else. I also really like the concept of do you want to live your life over again if given a chance?
Sure.
That's a cool concept.
Yeah.
It was just a throwaway couple of lines, though, rather than a concept
Right.
that was explored.
Yeah.
I mean, this was written by Fred Bronson, who put his name on it as John Culver. Did you research that?
No, I did not.
Oh, I don't know if he thought they bastardized it enough, or he was also a writer on The Next Generation.
Oh, okay.
Wrote Menage a Troy and The Game.
Menage a Troy.
Yeah, Deanna Troy.
Yeah, I know. I know.
Oh
Menage
my
a Trois.
god.
I know.
Yeah.
I know.
Oh my god.
That's an episode of The Next Generation that we'll get to. And then he also wrote The Game, which was the following season. Season 5, sorry. He actually, a lot of his writing credits are like award shows. That's something him and I have in common. No. I helped write one award show. He wrote several years of the annual American Music Awards and an episode of a year of the World Music Awards, and then some Dick Clark Rockin' New Year's.
Interesting.
In 2010. Yeah, I mean, that's most of his writing.
The one other little note I had about the why wouldn't you want to relive their great life is Nietzsche's theory is that we all just live the same life over and over. We're all doomed to make the same mistakes and everything.
Now, these are theories best left explored by The Good Place. Every other show shouldn't even try.
Yep.
The Good Place is a definitive philosophy show.
As you pointed out, Jimmy-Jerome, Eret backwards is Terra.
Yes.
So is Earth. Although I thought they meant A-R-E-T,
Yeah.
an arete, which is a sharp mountain ridge. That's what I thought it was spelled, but I'm glad you
Well, they
fixed-
said the Earth and Eret were in the same place when they pulled
Yeah.
up the maps of the galaxy. What I didn't get was, first of all, that's not the shape of the Milky Way. Second of all, the Milky Way is a lot bigger that you can cross. Now, okay, so warp speeds are, instead of just going up in numbers, it multiplies.
Oh,
Exponential.
Exponential, sorry. Yes, warp speeds.
My next guess was going to be delicious.
I mean, they are delicious. But warp speeds are exponential. So maybe warp 45 can get you all the way across the galaxy that quick. But then the Enterprise was still traveling at warp 45 like the whole time. We know that the warp numbers that warp system of numbering gets completely revamped for next gen. In the canon,
that's true.
they've, because their ships are so much faster, they reset what the numbers mean. But still, even the Enterprise went warp 22, which I'm like, it would rip apart. And they did kind of cover that by saying it would have ripped apart if we weren't in the tractor beam,
Right.
but still, it felt
Why?
kind of cheap.
So all the instruments go inoperable because they were in the Nova?
If they didn't go inoperable, they operated backwards, which doesn't make sense for the
But
time
I mean,
thing.
on the way through, because they were trying to separate on the before they started.
Oh, that's a good question.
They were like,
and they couldn't
they're
separate.
Like, oh, we can't do it. Da da da. And I just thought, why don't you just cut the power? And like, it seems like every other episode, Scotty's like, we're gonna lose power. It's like, all right, whatever you've done before, do that. So you lose
Unplug
power.
it and
The
plug it back
tractor,
in.
the tractor beam would stop, and then you're free.
Do you think time was standing still for the equipment, but not the people?
I just thought, rather than go warp 36 with Carla 5.
And then they said warp 36 or 45 or whatever it was, no known race has that speed. I'm like,
Right.
really? Because you met some pretty advanced races.
Right. Yeah. I guess. Again, that's every episode. It's like, that doesn't exist anywhere that we know of. It's like, well, every week you've come across something that
And
doesn't
if their
exist.
Earth is just a reverse Earth, they wouldn't have been that advanced. They'd be the same level of advancement.
Oh, you're right. Yeah.
Was that Lazarus's universe? Because he had the negative screen.
I wrote that down. Is this the alternative factor sequel?
I mean, I hated the alternative factor.
This was at least more interesting than the alternative
I
factor.
thought so too. I didn't hate this episode. I know it's going to be unpopular. I didn't love this episode, but
No.
I didn't hate this episode.
It comes down to the attempt again.
Yeah.
They kind of hooked me with the idea of what they were about to try to do, and then just started going, well,
I think the respect this episode gets, because it is kind of respected among animated, is because of the inclusion of Robert April, of getting to see Robert
That part
April.
is interesting, and
And his wife, total badass that invented like a lot of the medical
Yeah.
equipment and stuff.
Yeah.
Like she wasn't just some. I mean, I think it's a little bit shady that he married the chief medical officer. I guess Next Generation Picard always has a flirtation with his chief medical
There you
officer. Maybe that's a homage to this episode, but. It's still like she was a cool, strong, intelligent woman. She wasn't just a junior officer.
75 being the retirement age.
That seems too young, especially for
Yeah,
the future.
because I feel like it's established in Star Trek, but maybe it's just established in our world that people live longer then.
Yeah.
We know they'll live longer, and so 75 should not be the automatic retirement age.
In the pilot of The Next Generation, we see like a 125-year-old McCoy or however old he is.
Right, exactly. So, again, this is...
Spoilers, sorry.
I think this is another one of those things we've talked about in the original series especially, which was they really... A lot of things in the future they figured out. Cell phones, whatever. They saw in the future. A lot of other things they did not see in the future, how things would change.
But I think by the 70s, you should have been able to project that 75 was the retirement age.
Yeah. I think so too. So I thought,
and mandatory retirement is a dumb concept anyway.
Yes.
So they should have moved past. It should be based on the abilities of the individual. Right. And I think they make a mention there that he's appealing the mandatory sentence, and they think they can get it returned.
And then they reverse it.
Yeah.
I thought, I love, and I can't remember her name. We keep calling her Commodore April's wife, but
Sarah April. Dr. Sarah April.
Dr. Sarah April. I feel like everyone was like, she and everyone else were. She was putting the moves on everyone. They were putting the moves on her. Like, she's like, and I mean everywhere. She had that line early on, and McCoy's like, she's not only beautiful, she's brilliant.
Do you think her voice just sounds sexy because it was Nichelle Nichols?
Well, that didn't hurt. And then at the end, she's like, she says the line about the flowers blooming again.
Kirk says, I see your flower has blossomed again.
That's what it was. Yeah, it's like,
oh my God, what a groaner.
Man.
What a groaner.
Yeah,
I mean, you should have got Robert April saying, Kirk, stay away from my wife.
I think you're right. The idea of Nichelle Nichols,
that makes it sexy automatically.
I don't think we're wrong. I felt like those lines were delivered sexual intent.
Did you think the flower as a device to demonstrate the aging in the first place was way too hit you over the head with it?
Well, I know you guys were like, it looked like they were pointing a red arrow at it, like, dee, 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 pay attention to the flower.
Yeah, the vulva flower. Keith writes, surely the vulva flower will be of no importance. No, it was so obvious, so ridiculously cliche of, watch this flower, it's going to mean something. And it was just a warning sign. It wasn't like the plot device, but still, when the flower popped back to life, you're like, okay, that's why you made us stare at that flower earlier. And the flower really had no purpose other than to demonstrate that.
Yeah.
Kind of dumb. I mean, I guess you could kind of try to say it's a metaphor of life being so brief, and they were at the end of their life, just like the flower was already at the end of its life.
I think that is exactly what I was going to say.
But then they felt a rebirth, and that's why they were blossoming again.
Sure. But then Robert April was like, let's just go back to be the withered, dying flower again.
Which meant Dr. Sarah April open for business again.
So it'd be really funny if she's like, okay, you get the transport first, I'll be right there. Kirk, let's head you.
Yeah, I think she was putting out pheromones again, and Kirk was picking them up. Was like, oh yeah, you're blossoming again.
Oh yeah.
They kept calling it Babel, and I felt like in Journey to Babel, they called it Babel, and I looked it up in a couple different spots. I think Babel is correct, but the not Random House, but one of the Webster's or one of those says you can say Babel or Babel.
Yes, but so is that just where the ambassadors always go? Like that's the only place the ambassador planet now?
I guess so, yeah.
Because that's where Sarek was trying to travel, and now Robert April has to do that as the ambassador at large.
It's like Switzerland or the UN building, essentially.
I am really hoping Robert April shows up in Discovery as an ambassador at large.
That would be cool.
I hope so. I mean, we've had Pike all season, too.
When Spock points out that the time chronometer is going backwards, I wrote down that's the Ferris Bueller principle. When Ferris Bueller, when they try to get the odometer to go backwards by running the car in reverse. Essentially, this episode was like, yeah, that'll work. That'll work with time. That's the way time would work. Your chronometers would start running backwards. Because, clocks on the wall would start running backwards because they actually are connected somehow, which makes absolutely no sense. But
so the idea was they had to find a star that they knew was going nova.
Yes.
In the regular universe.
Yes.
And force the one on the negative side to go.
Yes, to
nova again.
To nova. So nova's on the negative side were the birth of a star.
Right.
So we're looking for a dead star on the negative side. At the same place a nova was happening on their side, so they could force a nova. And create a pathway. And they really figured out real quick what was happening. Like no effort at all. And then once they told us what was happening, then Robert April, for no particular reason, decided to restate exactly what they'd already said.
I wonder about this.
Like, kids, in case you missed this, because this is a hard concept, let me go ahead and repeat it in different words.
I thought it was because the woman said it first, and he was just like, here, let me tell you how it really sounded.
No, I didn't think that. I didn't think that. But I guess you could be right. He's going to mansplain to Dr. Sarah April.
I liked when Carla 5 signed off that she said success. Like, we would say good luck. I thought that was kind of a cool thing.
You know,
I might start doing that.
In Carla 5's world, George Bush was taking down the mission accomplished banner. That worked better. In Carla 5's world, Obama followed Trump. As it should be. See, we need another Obama.
You got a whole like Yakov Smirnoff thing going now. In Carla 5's universe.
Oh man.
Trump trumps you.
See, exactly. See, it's
Thank God he's been impeached by now.
Yakov Smirnoff.
I don't know if we covered the idea of how the transporter fixing it shouldn't restore their memories that they lost or of the recent events.
Right.
Maybe it was a backup of God knows when they last used it, right? So how does their
Kirk
mind
used
get
it this
restored?
morning, getting home from his walk of shame. Uhura hadn't used it in 6 months because she never gets to go on missions.
That's a good question. Yeah, none of that.
And Kirk was probably like, that science officer they slept with last week by mistake, let's reverse her another week.
Yeah, that's why I just completely reject that out of hand. And
there's
what I
just
do
so many.
is it's stricken from my memory.
I mean, so if you get into the science of how the transporter actually works, based on canon, based on what we know, it does essentially murder you and then build a copy of you elsewhere.
Right.
So it really should be possible to restore, fix broken bones, restore a dead crewman, all of those things that we think are silly. But the fact that it doesn't do it consistently in story is where we run into the issue.
Yeah.
Because based on what they've told, it should work that way.
I guess their memory
Like,
is...
you beam down and the science officer gets killed, you just beam another copy. It should work that way. Fashion?
Fashion.
Robert April dress uniform.
Yeah.
With the
and
even in the animation, the triangles
Trivial
were not in
Pursuit things, yeah.
They weren't in regular patterns
They
of
were
lines.
not. No.
So that was true. And Sarah April, I wish her uniform was a little better.
Why were they on the bridge the whole time?
Because they can be. They're very distinguished.
And
guys.
then he went with them down to the surface. Is that because he's the Commodore?
Yeah.
You can? Okay.
He outranks all of them. He can do
I
whatever
will
he
give
wants.
him that he was not the cranky Commodore that we're used to.
No.
Kirk, why aren't you doing anything? Kirk, blah, blah, blah. So I'll give him that. We might have to cut this part out, but young Uhura was... I don't know how old she was. I know the one when she's sitting on
Be careful here.
No,
tread carefully.
There's the one where she's little tiny Uhura.
Yeah, I'm glad
it's hilarious.
I'm glad that's not what you were talking
No,
about.
I suddenly got uncomfortable.
That part was hilarious. I mean, like, I couldn't tell if she was high school or college age, and her hair got shorter for some reason. Yeah, she was cute.
The implication, I think,
But the
is that they
little
were, like,
Uhura was hilarious.
I remember what I was going to say now before, back in the subject of the transporters and the way they would work. Some probably because of hardware limitations, I would imagine that they wouldn't keep that many people buffered. Or I mean, there's probably like a
Right.
But you want to keep
pattern.
the away team that just beamed down as a security feature.
You would think,
That's-
but I think there's probably. We were joking about this a little bit ago about like Republicans and so forth, but I think there would be a pretty big moral
Ethics issue.
moral outcry from people
Sure.
saying that we just have to build a feature so that it doesn't do that. You know,
But then
can't
you would
possibly-
definitely have the episode where somebody brings their loved one back from the dead that way, and then people are upset about it, and it's a whole thing.
that should happen at some point.
Right.
Well, yeah.
And,
So
So
I
somebody
guess,
would do it.
what if there was somebody on the ship that hadn't been in the transporter ever? In theory, they could have come up
And
on a
count
shuttle.
the shuttle. Huh.
Then they just get to relive their life again.
And they were jettisoned in a pod when Kirk hit them on the chair.
Right. Yeah. I mean, this conversation is better than the episode. I mean, the conversation it engendered.
Don't you?
I'll give him credit for that.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
I'll give him credit for that.
If the episode sparks such an interesting
Yeah,
conversation,
I'll give
doesn't
it
that
credit
get
for that.
something?
I'll give it credit
Yeah.
for that.
Do you think this episode deserves to be the final episode of the series?
It depends on what do you mean by deserve.
Yeah, it deserves to end this thing.
Yeah.
No, what I mean
Be
is,
done with it.
Was there a better note to end on, or is this?
Yeah, my alternate episode should also have spurred conversation. My alternate episode is they go through it and it's opposite day. Or opposite. Exactly. So you're saying yes. See? You're like, yes, that would be awesome. See?
Don't even get me started on bizarro inconsistencies.
My
Yeah.
alternate episode, I guess, was the MythBusters thing. My last note was the graffiti was still bad from the
Yeah.
beginning of the NCC.
Yeah, the filmation guys were just like, whatever.
Keith, you have any other notes?
Oh, I hesitate to even say this one. It's there, though. I might
Do
well.
it. Do it. Yes.
I was just saying that in light of seeing the flower at the beginning, it was hard not to immediately think of that nova as being like an anus. Essentially the way that it was shaped and the way it was just... they just kept making all these references about what there's going to happen when they go through it. And
I'm so disappointed in you, Keith.
That makes sense. It ties into the whole going backwards.
I think I can...
Oh, God, right. And there's like...
Yeah.
You got any other notes, Steven?
That's all I got.
So we're to ranking now. Men, women. You going for Dr. Sarah April, or are you going to stick with Randy Bryce?
I can't choose college age her, right?
No.
Okay. I mean, is that a different person? I mean, they had to put her through the
Now we need
transporter.
to do an episode of The Good Place.
I will stick with Randy Bryce.
Oh, Sarah April, the compelling power cat. I think I'm gonna stick with the power cat. Keith, you have now seen Bem, so your alien entity cloud.
Well, to be fair, I wasn't actually looking at the screen whenever it was on.
Oh, because you were taking notes.
But I would stick with it for the voice and the wisdom, actually.
Okay.
There was something... I wish I'd written down the quote she said, but it was actually pretty good.
She was... I thought she was one of the better higher beings. You realize, like, oh, you know what? Just, you're good to go. I think you...
Yeah.
I don't need to bother you. Just stay away from our planet for a little while.
Yeah, so she was deity shaming the other thing that brought them there.
Yeah, exactly.
Essentially, it was like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
Just leave him alone.
So, ranking the episode, my instinct is to start with, is it better or worse than the time trap? Because it's another time related. But the time trap was way better.
I need to...
The time trap was all the ships brought together.
All the ship just stuck in the place.
Okay.
That was better. That was far better. I should start lower. That was number 13 of 21 right now by the rankings.
Oh, okay.
Wow.
Yeah, I should start lower. Let's start with a recent one then, so that's a little more fresh in our memory. Albatross.
That I was going to say at the beginning that I was already going to be torn because, between going for an interesting concept and then just mangling it to that extent.
Yeah. What's below the Albatross?
Oh, below? One of our planets is missing.
I mean, I'd be okay with it above Albatross, too.
Okay. Above Albatross is the Magics of Megas 2.
Ooh. Again, I think the concepts and the conversations we had were more interesting than Magic 7 Megas 2.
Okay. Above that's the Practical Joker, where the ship's computer plays practical jokes on the chaos.
It's another cloud.
That one I just watched today, and the most striking thing to me was another one of those goofy xylophone music endings.
Yeah.
Where's that been?
I think personally, I would put it below Practical Joker, above Megas 2.
What's above Practical Joker?
The ambergris element.
So you think this is about Practical Joker, you were saying?
No, I don't think it's about Practical Joker.
I wouldn't be angry if it was, but I can't make a good argument.
Right.
That it should.
The ambergris element's the underwater.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There was so much not good in this episode, along with some good.
Yeah.
I think the case you would make, I wasn't aware of this really, or I hadn't really picked up on it until you were talking about it during this recording, that the people that were visiting the ship were of historical importance. So that was kind of brings it up a little bit.
That's the only reason I'm willing to put it as high as just below the Practical Joker.
I could live with that.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is number 16 of 22.
I was going to joke earlier that I love it at 16.
I was already thinking that.
That was the number I was.
4.
Next week, we wrap up the animated series. We discuss our favorite, least favorite episodes, men, women, moments, where it ranks in regards to other Star Trek, and so forth.
I've been thinking a lot about the women. Believe it or not.
Well, Randy Bryce was your longest held, but we'll get to that.
Yes, we will.
Until then, live long. Wait. Prosper and live long. Somebody put it through the Twin Peaks generator.
And evil.
Prosper and long life. How about that?
Fair enough.
It's All Been Done presents.
Who's got the time?